All right, let's talk about DreamCon. That's it, that's my intro. Hey, I'm Amanda, you're watching Swell Entertainment, and today we are talking about DreamCon, a convention that just took place, or is still currently taking place as I am filming this, in Houston, Texas. I apologize in advance if the audio is a mess. For some reason, this mic has been irritating me, so I took off the hamster, and we're gonna see if that makes the audio quality any better. My travel mic is still dead, and I have yet to get a new one, because I'm cheap. You guys have actually been asking me to go to DreamCon for a good 3, if not more years. And typically what happens is that there is another event happening that weekend that I've already committed to, already bought tickets to, and then I just completely forget about DreamCon. So this year, I admit, there was a different event that was booked for this weekend. Thing is that got canceled, and I wanted to, keep the travel schedule going, so we're in Houston. But really quick, let me tell you about the sponsor for today's video, Squarespace. I understand what serious business people you all are, and that is why your business needs a website. And Squarespace is the all-in-one website building platform to help you as an entrepreneur stand out and succeed online. If you don't know where to start, Squarespace has a ton of incredible templates to choose from, and with cutting-edge design, you can customize any part of them. Squarespace makes it super easy to sell physical products, digital products, or even offering services for sale. And with their intuitive analytics tool, it makes it super easy to track everything on your site. Go to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/swellentertainment to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. And thank you again to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Anarchy really wanted to come to DreamCon. She also did MomoCon, which I opted out of doing MomoCon only because I thought it was going to be way too much travel back to back to back for myself, because my June is also going to be insane. So I've opted for DreamCon because you guys have never once mentioned MomoCon to me. Not really a once, but DreamCon you guys have mentioned almost every year for the last couple of years. So I wanted to prioritize this one. I would say I bought my ticket fairly late. It was maybe about 2-3 weeks before the event. And I got the weekend pass. There's a little ribbon badge on here from the boring store that says saving my virginity for Mothman. I thought it was funny. But this is the weekend badge, and this was $150 for 3 days. I can't beat that for a convention, frankly. That's kind of like the average, I would say now, of like a good, fairly reasonable rate for a 3-day convention. I have seen lower, but I think that $150 is very reasonable for a full weekend standard ticket. Single days, I'm looking at the site now, for Friday and Saturday would have been $75, and Sunday was $60. Across the board, I would say each day has been fairly packed, and I have talked with quite a few attendees that have been to events previously, and they said they're actually really glad I was here this year because the con crunch or crowd crunch has actually been fairly bad in previous years, and this was the first time they had it at this convention center. This convention center is the George R. Brown Convention Center here in Houston. I love this convention center. It almost looks like a cruise ship from the outside, and that has no bearing on literally anything. I just like it, okay? And it's actually really centrally located with a beautiful park attached to it, as well as a lot of hotels around it. I do think this was a good convention center for this event because of how vast and spread out some of the rooms are and things like that. And so I think that really helped with any crowding that there normally would be with this amount of people. I did not see any numbers released about how many people were actually here, but it was a lot. You're going to see footage probably here, and it's going to look really sparse at times. And that's just because I would come pretty early in the morning when I could come in that early so that I could film as much as I could without getting too many, crowd, because I do try and be, respectful of crowd faces and things like that with people when I'm filming. And so if there's ever a time where you're like, wow, that looks real empty, assume I'm there early, okay? This convention fills up very quickly and it gets pretty crowded. So just something to keep in mind. Before I get into the actual convention itself, I want to do the About DreamCon section, okay? Because when I said that this was like founded by RDC World to people, because they were like, what's DreamCon? I was like, oh, it's the, convention that's like founded and created by like RDC World. They were like, it's what? Here's the About on the DreamCon page. As a premier entertainment convention founded by RDC World, DreamCon unites enthusiasts globally to celebrate gaming, anime, sports, film, music, and pop culture while fostering inclusivity and a sense of belonging. DreamCon continuously seeks to showcase diverse talents, amplify underrepresented voices in mainstream spaces, and redefine the landscape of fandom events. So I got out here Thursday night, checked into my hotel, very close to the convention center. Like I said, there's a lot of hotels nearby. I've been able to walk every single day that I've been here, which has been nice. And again, like I said, the park is beautiful. So Friday I got up, got my video ready to go, and then went over to get my registration badge. There is a DreamCon app, which was a little buggy at times, but nothing crazy. Okay, nothing more than I would expect for an app that is in function for a convention and, has a few thousand people on it at a time. And there was a form on it that was a know before you go. And that had the, registration information and all of that. I do think there should have been more signs or like pop-ups or anything. Now, obviously this would be outside the convention hall. So you're relying on security and volunteers to, direct people to the right venue, because the registration was actually not at the convention center. It was connected to the convention center at one of the hotels next door. So technically across the street from the convention center, but there was a sky bridge. It was pretty easy to figure out. And if you just asked enough people, eventually they would direct you to the right way. But I do think another sign or something like that, a bigger like blast type of thing of like, go here for your registration type of thing via the app or something like that might have been good. I'd found these two girls that were also trying to go find registration. And so I walked with them. Get in the back of the line. There was a hotel worker, I believe, that had this is the end of the line sign. So we got in that line. We went around the entire floor of the registration. I have a lot of footage of this registration line, and it was long, but it was moving fairly well. Okay, I will say that. And then a bunch of us got pushed through to the bridge that led to the convention center, and we thought that's where registration was. That was not where registration was. That's how you got into the convention. So to get through there, we would have had to have our badges already. So we all go back inside. Surprise, the line where we had been, gone. The line's there where we had been, gone. Me and these two girls were trying to like figure out what the deal is. One of them was also like making content and stuff. So we were talking. We're like trying to sort things out. We're trying to find one of the volunteers. The volunteers were wearing these like bright neon DreamCon volunteer shirts, which is great. I always love a very easy to identify volunteer shirt or uniform or anything like that, especially when it's this crowded like this. I do think you needed more volunteers here, and that was echoed by hotel staff, because someone from the hotel recognized me and said, "Hi, let me know if you have any questions. I work with the hotel. If you have any questions about all of this." I'm like, yeah, what's happening? And I was told that they believed that they did not have enough volunteers that knew what was going on, basically. And so they were doing the best that they could to help with the line. And so we did find a volunteer that did basically kind of let us jump in line, led into like a bunch of rows for registration. It did seem like there was at least 2 or 3 registration halls in this section. And again, the lines were moving quickly. I just think you needed more people helping with line control, because this happens a lot with Anime Expo as well. If you don't have anyone to control the snake of the line, like the moment you do a little hairpin, start snaking the line, if you don't have anyone to make sure that that line doesn't just shrink and form into a ball and then turn into a new line, it's not going to stay aligned for long. You needed a few more volunteers in this area, I think, to make this run a lot more smoothly. The volunteers were all very nice and very trying to be helpful. I just think that they were a little overwhelmed by the amount of people, especially on day one like this. Anarchy came with her parents. She came a couple hours later than me. And she also tried to go get registration and then decided to just go and get checked in fully and change and then do registration again to see if she could get through the line at that time. And it was still very long and complicated hours later. Even after that, we went to get food, and there was still the line for registration had like wrapped outside the hotel because we went to get food like hours later. So this was an ongoing problem with the registration line of it being just super long and delayed. Go inside. This is a huge convention center. I did put quite a bit of steps on my feet this weekend. There's a few places I never went into, either because I couldn't, or that just didn't work out timing-wise. Anything you RSVP for, I didn't get. Missed it all. At one point, me and Anarchy, because Anarchy's a cosplay creator, okay, we're really excited when Meg Thee Stallion was announced to be coming to DreamCon and that she was going to be, doing a cosplay contest and all of this stuff. We were very excited. DreamCon had to make a statement because their Instagram page liked a comment. I'm Team Meg. I'm not arguing with anyone. I'm really not. There was a lot of people that didn't even know she was still coming. I'm really glad that she still came. I did not get to see her at any point, unfortunately, because it wasn't until I was already out here the night before Friday. At some point, apparently, there was the RSVP link for Meg's panel Friday night went out, and me and Anarchy both missed it. Both missed it. It filled up real quick because it's the power of Meg. Okay, understandable. Then it was, hey, if you want to do the cosplay contest, submit. Anarchy submitted. Didn't hear anything back. We did hear that it was packed and that some people were able to sneak in. We did not try to sneak in. Anarchy was fried because she had a red-eye flight the night before to get out here. I was like, okay, I'll just go work, and get stuff done. So we didn't end up sneaking in. And apparently some people were able to get in. But also the cosplay contest, there was only like 3 or 4 people that did the cosplay contest. So I don't know if they just intentionally kept the cosplay contest like really small. But Meg did a panel and all of that. And then she also on Friday, the entire weekend actually, not Friday, there was a booth for her alcohol set up. I don't drink, neither does Anarchy, so we never really got in line for this. But she was at the booth yesterday apparently, and I missed her. She was also outside at one point. I missed her. I kept missing her. Devastated, truly. That whole main stage, huge, but I never made it in there, okay? And like, that's one of the things that I think is good about this convention center is that it is so big, so it can accommodate these big rooms like this. I've never been good at RSVPing for panels because one of the things that I like about a convention is when I'm at the convention, like finding panels that interest me day of. And for crowd control and things like that, I understand why RSVP panels are becoming more common, but I just think I can't pre-plan things like that because then I'll be a control freak. But I missed a lot because I did that. Okay, so something to keep in mind. They sold tickets, I believe, to the charity basketball game. Those sold out too, so I couldn't go to that either. A lot of like the big things you will hear about from DreamCon, I probably wasn't at. The main thing that I have about this con, about across the board, is that it is crowded and there's a little bit of like messiness when it comes to like crowd control and things like that. But I don't know how much of that is laid out because of the layout of the convention center and how much of it is just like crowding in general. Because at a certain point, you can have a huge space. If you have a ton of people in the space, like it's going to be a little like wonky crowd wise. But like the vibes were so good at this event. And I really want to reiterate that again and again. Like everyone was just in like a really good mood. Everyone was really nice. Everyone's in cosplays and stuff or in like their nerd shit. It's like really fun. Okay. Like just very fun. I've met a lot of viewers this weekend too, which has been really cool. The things that normally a lot of people would have complaints about as far as like crowds and things like that. I think everyone was just in such a good mood that those were kind of like brushed to the side the entire time. Okay. Not to say that there weren't like issues and things like that. And like there was a fight. But like that was mostly like internet shit, more than like convention shit, if that makes sense. Convention, exhibitor hall, ka-chow, artist alley space. I will say I do wish your exhibitor hall was bigger, but every exhibitor I talked to was like, we love this size. So that's personal preference over like an actual like note for the convention or anything like that. Because I love wandering an exhibit hall. Okay, I really do. I love wandering an exhibit hall. I love wandering an artist alley. Okay, I like finding new things. I like being like, wait, did I go down this aisle yet? No. Here I know I saw everything. And I talked to a couple of different vendors in the artist alley and just in general in different spots around the exhibitor hall. And they were like, there is less exhibitors this year from what we can tell, and we all prefer it basically because obviously like if you see someone one time and you're like, I don't know if I should buy that or not, you're gonna probably go back. I will say over the weekend I did see like even more so than normal, like a lot of booths were selling out of a lot of different inventory. So that was interesting. I did buy some stuff. I did break my no buy. Okay, but in my defense, I probably will not be able to go to Anime Expo this year. I'm personally devastated. And I have developed an addiction to this little weirdo. This is Mau Mau from the Apothecary Diaries. Okay, and I've told myself I need to stop buying prints because the reality is that I buy prints and then I don't do anything with the prints. I don't hang them up. I don't do anything with them. They just sit in folder in my office because I don't like putting them up. It's so dumb because I love the artwork, but I just don't use prints like that. And so these are patches, and then this is a little keychain. This is my little weirdo Mau Mau. Okay, anyways, so I did buy those. I did break my no buy. Okay. The meet and greet set up for like any invited guests were in the very back of the exhibit hall, which I do think led to a couple of issues for like line control, like I said, but that's just because like if someone has a long line, there's not really anywhere else for them to go aside from like one of the main aisles of the exhibitor hall. So this is the line, I think, for one of the meet and greets, which I don't know where else you would put the meet and greets, at least at this venue, because the line obviously takes up kind of cuts the exhibitor hall a bit. but I don't know where else you would put it here. They have quite a few hall rooms, and obviously having the meet and greets there is good because then people can just get in line and join them, but might be an issue with crowds. But I mean, for the most part, it's been fine. I do think that that led to a lot of like, excuse me, you know, on my part, because I don't like cutting in line. Even if I'm not in line, I'm like, okay, I feel bad. And then next door to the exhibitor hall, connected to it, is the gaming hall. This is where they had free play, VR headsets, the Army, I think. You know, they had the Army, the Navy, all of them were out, you know, but that's a staple of comic book conventions at this point, frankly. They had like the stage with like where they were doing competitions and things like that. I didn't spend a ton of time in here. You guys know me, I'm not a big gamer. They also had like the mini arcade with Coca-Cola and stuff here set up. So it's the last day, but I do find it interesting that Coca-Cola just fully got rid of like their table setup that they have, unless they moved it, but they were giving out free samples and stuff, so they may have just ran out. I don't know, but I do find that interesting. And then next door to that, another big hall, was a queue room for the main stage. I did not go into the queue room, and I never went into the main stage, okay? Mainly because there was just never any panels in that room that I really wanted to go to, but also, again, it was the RSVP room for the most part. Massive room, though, okay? Again, this convention center is huge, okay? Crazy. Level 3 is pretty much where they had all of the panels for the most part, and a few other things, but I went to a ton of panels. Okay, I can't believe I didn't talk about this. The panel selection here, incredible. Like, genuinely, some of the best panels back to back to back that I have been to in a long time. When you guys would come up to me, you guys would be like, what are you liking so far? I'm like, the panel selection is great. Like, I was like, the crowding, yeah. But like the panel selection, it's just good panels. And I don't know if it's because they do a lot more like potential like self-submitted panels and they just chose from a lot of them. They have a lot of panel rooms, so they're able to like double stack a lot of really great panels. There was multiple times where I had to like choose between 2 or 3 that I really wanted to do in a time slot. I did one for like solo traveling in Japan. I did one about politics and anime. Me and Anarchy went to a fashion design one the other day. God, there was like another writers one that we went to. We went to a bunch. Today I went to one on the Dream stage, which is like another one at the big stage. So not as big as the main stage, but still really big. And it was, you know, how to monetize your content or yeah, like that. And like, I'm always interested in like, you know, how to be a content creator panels and things like that, even though I am a full-time creator because I'm, you know, I believe in always learning, you know, and the industry is always changing and things like that. So though nothing that was really discussed was like a personally applicable to me, I did learn of an email tracking thing from one of the panelists that I did think was interesting. So I may try and implement that. But I also think that as a control freak, this is going to drive me insane if I can tell if an email that I've sent has been opened or not. So we shall see. And they did have like the standard, like this is about this is about this anime, like let's talk about this anime and things like that. Just like a lot of really good panel selections and like not to say that other panel selections aren't good, but like when you submit for panels and things like that at other events, like I know Anarchy has done a couple of submissions for like different conventions and stuff for like Black cosplay creators and things like that. And so it's interesting to see, one, just the variety of topics that were being covered and things like that. There was apparently I didn't make it to this one, but there was a furry panel that like looked to be packed according to Twitter and stuff. So like, and all of these panel rooms, I should say as well, the ones that I got to, there was multiple times where I just had to stand in the back because like I would get there right as they were starting and they were already filled up. The only thing I would say is that some of these panel rooms, maybe, I don't know if they were able, I'm assuming they took photos or kept track of the crowds or something like that for future, because some of these panels, if they were to do them again, they're gonna have to be in a bigger room just because a lot of them were really great and they definitely were a little cramped in there. Some of the panel rooms were like themed and stuff, like the fashion creators room, which like actually like this really like cutesy little hangout room that had like mirrors and stuff, like if you wanted to touch up your makeup and stuff. And there was a company in there that I think was selling period care kits and stuff. And it was like all flowery and stuff. It was very fun. I like that one a lot. I like the theme rooms. That was cool. A lot of conventions, I think, especially like Anime Expo, like there's usually 1 or 2 panels where I'm like, I really hope I can make it into this one. But a lot of times I feel like I'm cool with missing this. And it's because a lot of the bigger events that have gotten like super corporate, obviously they are deferring to like the bigger sponsors and things like that to decide panels and things like that. Whereas this one, I think you had some of those panels, but it was a lot more as well, like submitted panels that were being chosen and things like that. So I loved it. I love the panel selection. Like, please, if there's anything you take from this video and you're like, okay, good, we're doing something good. I'm complimenting a lot of things, but still, I love the panel selections. Fantastic. There was a YouTube lounge, which again, another RSVP thing, but they let me in. They let in pretty much anyone that could show if you went when there was not a line and you could show that you were a YouTuber or you had posted in the last 6 months, they pretty much let you in there. So they let me in, which was nice. And they had like a little thing where you could do, it was like you scan this and then you go around and do like photos and talk and things like that. But they had panels in here as well. I don't know if they ever shared the schedule for this. I didn't see it. So I just wandered in here from time to time to see their panels. But they also would get panels in there. And then they also had the tell me what I'm doing wrong about my channel, like the deep dive type of like almost like Genius Bar channel audits that they sometimes do. I went up to one of them and I like to say, roast my shit. And he saw that I had over 500K and was like, I don't know what to tell you. And then I talked with a few others who were telling me about shorts and stuff because I've definitely been slacking on shorts. I did not realize I've only posted shorts in April of this month, so my bad. Okay, let's talk about the fight because there was a few other fights. Okay, there was a like full like wrestling ring that I caught Friday. They were on like the ground floor and they were doing like a whole wrestling performance and things like that. Very fun, cool. I love a bit. And then there was a couple of times where I don't know if these dudes were just going around or what, but they had like boxing gloves and they would just like tag someone in and then just start boxing for a little bit and then be done. All in good fun though, for the most part. Nothing I saw anyone getting like seriously get their shit rocked. But you know, that was fun. A few basketball challenges and things like that I saw going around and stuff. There was one point where me and Anarchy was like, is a fight happening? Because we saw Matara and a few other VTubers were on the iPad like going around DreamCon and we went up to say hi. We heard yelling. We were like, is a fight happening? And their handler was like, oh no, they're ranking anime women. It was like, okay, that could lead to a fight, you know? I guess we'll talk about the fight. I was not there. Okay, it was after I had left for the day. I know exactly where this was, though. It was in the exhibitor hall. And apparently there was a fight where someone kept calling DDG doo-doo garbage. And I believe it was him and his brother or his brother and a videographer. There was a tussle. Let's go with that. Okay. Which all I'm really going to say is whoever in that clip was yelling ref again and again and again. You made me giggle. And that's kind of all I'm going to say about that. I've seen a lot of people talk about it on Twitter and things like that. So if you want to hear more thoughts on that, go talk about it on Twitter. Go check Twitter, I suppose. And so let's talk about the cosplays. The cosplays this weekend. Everyone's very creative. It was very cool. As someone who like has dabbled with cosplay, but now when I go to a convention, I'm going to work and review it and just be an attendee. I'm usually not cosplaying. Anarchy and I have talked about the fact that like at a certain point, I'm going to have to start cosplaying just to like make it so that I can still do my reviews and stuff because love you guys, okay, but you guys recognize me too much. And if I'm getting the tea from someone and you're like, swell, it can blow up my spot a little bit. So eventually I might have to start cosplaying just to like conceal my identity a bit more. One thing that was really funny though this weekend, because everyone's been super nice this weekend, like I said, so many of you learned I'm short this weekend, which is very funny. Because in my brain, I'm like, I feel like it's super obvious that I'm 5'2". Apparently it's not. And so a lot of people were like, wow, you're smaller than I thought. But no, cosplays were amazing. Anarchy did Miraculous Ladybug on Friday, and then she did Sailor Moon yesterday. Lots of different Sailor Moons. I love, okay, this is might be silly. I love when people use their wigs with their braids, or just their braids in general, and then they do like the anime hair. It's very cute. I love it. It's one of my favorite takes on cosplay, and it's just, there was so much great wig work here at DreamCon, and it was really cool. I liked it a lot. Lots of cool homemade cosplays, and then also just like a lot of good merch spots that were like selling like their own designs of merch and things like that, and different character designs and stuff, which was cool. Also on the top floor where like the halls were and everything like that, there was a food court as well. Good selection for food court. I got a brisket baked potato that first day. It's gonna fuck up baked potatoes for me for a while, frankly, but it was delicious. The one thing that I would say, because a lot of the food lines were really long, is, and this is just a convention note, so like this isn't even like for this convention, it's a convention center note more than anything. I do think they needed more like small, quick, snacky cart spots. They had like a popcorn spot, a few popcorn spots, a couple little coffee shop spots, like 2 or 3 in the convention center, and then like one Dippin' Dot spot where I think someone was like not there like a third of the time. You needed a pretzel or a churro spot, like 1 or 2, just to like help brick up the line. Because sometimes people want a snack, but they don't want to like sit down and like eat a bunch of food. You know what I'm saying? So that might just help with like food lines and things like that. Because then that way you have, I think you really divide the like lunch hour stuff, you know, where it's like lunch, evening time for food, especially because this con goes late. This con starts fairly late in the day and goes late. Anarchy was like, I love this because I want to take time to get ready for a con in cosplay and everything. And I'm, you know, bright and early. When's opening? I'm there type of person. So it was fine, you know, but like I do prefer like earlier in the day, but that's because I'm crazy. Someone told me there was more people in attendance this year, but the con crush wasn't as bad. I'm really curious what the final tally is for like if they will announce like what the actual like attendee number is, because it seemed like a fuckload, frankly. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. Like I do think this was like the maximum amount of people you could probably fill for like as far as like all these people in these spaces. If you're going to have this same amount of exhibitors, I do think you had a few too many of the people that are at every single convention, but I understand there are some people here that just do this convention as far as attendees go, so it's not a big deal. There was a lot of people that had like very similar, like the anime, like metal prints and things like that, that were like, again, different art styles and things like that, but it was a lot of the same things, you get what I'm saying? I do like the neon green shirts for the volunteers. That's a good move. I want more cons to do that. Probably just more volunteers. And like, I do think with volunteers, it looked like there was a few people I saw a few times, but a lot of them were like kind of roving a lot. So I do think this would probably be, I didn't hear any complaints from any volunteers, and a few of them recognized me and we talked for a little bit. So that's a good sign, because normally it's the opposite. Normally people are like, let me tell you about how awful it is being a volunteer for this convention. So the fact that no one did that is a good sign. Would do this again. The reality is that this time of year, May and June, is con season, and so would like to do this again, but this is just like a packed time for conventions in general. I believe someone told me this was typically in August, which I do think this was a good time to do this just because it's a little cooler. It was still pretty warm and muggy also here in Houston when it came to the rain as well, but nothing too unbearable. You know, I'm literally wearing a sweater. I wore a sweater yesterday, but that's because I'm allergic to AC apparently, and I get cold. Miss the Stallion, if you see this, please do more conventions, whether it's this one or others. Please do more. Oh, she has an anime coming out, by the way. She announced that during her panel. I had to find that out from Twitter because I couldn't go into the panel. Me and Mau Mau are just going to wrap this up. Would I come back to DreamCon? Yes. I do think the weekend pass is good price, and premium, I do feel like that's on the low end, $350. I didn't really talk to anyone who had premium, so I don't know if they thought it was worth it. Something to keep in mind. I have not actually reviewed that past experience. Have you been to DreamCon? Are you mad it took me this long to go to DreamCon? Were you one of the people that asked me to go to DreamCon? Did you see me at DreamCon, but you didn't come up and say hi? Or you didn't think it was me? I did have multiple people this weekend. Once again, this happens from time to time. There's trends of this. Usually it is at, I would say, anime-related conventions, where you guys are shocked to see that I exist in 3D. I do exist. I am a human being. Hi. If that was you and that's why you were like, that can't be Swell, that's okay. Let me know. Comment down below. Reminder, I stream on Twitch. Reminder that Swell Entertainment is now available on Spotify. Reminder to check out my car and motorsport hobby channel, Girly Pop Go, for more content because I can't not give myself work. Shout out to my channel members. If you'd also like to join me on channel memberships, you can go ahead and click join down below. If you'd like to follow me on social media, that'll be all up there. And that's going to have a lovely day. Goodbye. I'm going to make Mau Mau sign you out. I know I said I wasn't going to talk about it anymore. In fact, I should shut the fuck up about this because, again, I wasn't there and I don't want to be involved in this situation whatsoever. But again, the person who just kept yelling, ref, in that video had me dying laughing when I first saw it.